Then you've got the gig economy, or the sharing economy, which is being co-opted by people like Uber and Lyft and Airbnb. Actually, 1 in 3 US workers are now involved in some form in the gig economy. But the problem is it's very demoralizing to workers. There's obviously no benefits. It's lots and lots of hours for very low pay. It's basically exploitative. And you have these giant middlemen corporations who are making billions off workers. I mean, Uber doesn't work for drivers. Uber works for Kalanick and all the investors and people behind that. And that's one area where blockchain technology can actually flip that model on its head and have drivers and passengers connect directly with no humans in the middle extracting wealth. All of this is also leading to a brand new class of workers called the precariats. And a few stats, so there's now 200 million unemployed people globally. There's 600 million 16 to 24-year-old people who are not in education, they're not employed, and they're not even looking for training. They're not doing any training. And there's 1.4 billion people in vulnerable employment. So with all of that, now the biggest thing that's facing us, and I think this is actually something that's going to be probably a bigger issue than climate change and global warming, like in the very short term, because it's going to hit us faster than I think we expect. Automation. And I'm sure you've seen all the stories recently about how it's going to take, every day you see a new story about either a prediction by some, report company saying, X amount of jobs are going to be automated, or you see all sorts of stories about different companies who are exploring automation because it can basically help them cut labor costs. So 47% of jobs are expected to be globally expected to be automated within 10 years. So that means half of basically all world jobs will be gone. And of course, technology does often create more jobs, but the thing is it's probably going to create, and it's very likely to create, to destroy more jobs than it creates. And so you end up with a system where gradually you end up with more and more people who become like a useless class. They have nothing to do because there is no employment. And this is already happening now. So 5 million US manufacturing jobs were actually lost from the year 2000 to 2010 directly as a result of automation. Every robot actually kills 5.6 human jobs. And obviously, it's not just about robotics and manufacturing. It's also about AI. It's coming for white-collar jobs as well. Like, obviously, accountants, any type of database work, lawyers, all sorts of stuff. There's a massive list. And it's so bad. There's actually there was a study came out recently that showed that the life expectancy for middle-aged men in the US, in those areas in kind of like the middle America that were automated from manufacturing, that demographic, their life expectancy has actually reversed for the first time in US history, because so many of them are now addicted to drugs and killing themselves that the life expectancy has reversed. So this is like, I don't know, like I hate to be a doomsdayer, but this is like what's coming for all of us.
Plus, they've already beaten Go, and Go has more than twice the amount of atoms in the observable universe,
exactly.
Moves possible.
Yep. And so the reason, like automation should be a really good thing for humanity. It should be something that frees us to, enjoy more leisure time, to do our actual passion projects. The only reason automation is a bad thing is because our economic system means that when a job is automated, all that happens is those profits go to the owners. I mean, if you get let go tomorrow because your job's been automated, why does that happen? Because your employers have worked out a way to do that, meaning they don't have to pay you anymore, which means that goes directly to their profit line. And where does that money go? It goes to the shareholders, the investors, the owners. You get nothing. You get thrown out on the street. Good luck. Go find another job. And that's all obviously leading to wealth inequality. And wealth inequality is at the worst it has ever been in human history. There are now 8 men that now control more than half of the world's wealth. So 8 men control more wealth than 3.6 billion people. And the previous year it took 62 men to do that. So it's like an exponential, it's very soon we're going to get to the point where 1 or 2 people basically control the majority of the world's wealth. And that means those people decide what happens to our future. That they determine everything. They become the dictators. So fuck. What do we do about this?
Trump.
Well, automation has been described as one of the reasons for the rise of populists like Donald Trump and Brexit, because they look to blame someone. Well, who do they blame? They blame immigrants. Oh, they're taking our jobs. No, the robots are, the machines are. So there's a bunch of ideas that have been thrown out of how to fix this. I personally like 4-day work week. Very simple one. Let's just reduce the work week down. Done. Solved. There's lots of studies that show massive benefits for that. Another one that's been proposed by Bill Gates is a robot tax. There's a few issues with that. How do you tax a robot? Like, practically implementing that would be basically impossible because, you'd have to catalog every single robot in the world and every single piece of software in the world. And on top of that, if one country does it and the others don't, then obviously companies are just going to move to the country that doesn't have its robot tax. Nothing works. Job guarantee, which is basically where you have the public sector pay for jobs, and they dictate, or they basically dish out jobs that would be, for community service, for helping out the elderly, for community care, stuff like that. I like this one too. It's cool as a short-term fix as things start getting bad, and it's good for people who don't like the idea of just handing out free money with a basic income. My issue with that is that you'll probably end up having bullshit jobs dictated by government committees. They'll be like, well, crap, we'll just do this job. Then there's basic income, and I'm sure you've probably all heard of basic income, the idea where you just, and this is probably the most popular solution to automation that's being, the most popular meme that's being spread around right now, where governments would basically just give all of us a livable income so that you could work if you want to work and earn on top of that, or if you don't want to work, you don't have to. A lot of people have issues with this. It's going to happen in some sense, and it has to happen. My issue with this is that if it's issued by a government, that just gives the government the power. It's a political weapon in the future for them to either raise or lower the basic income to control what will essentially be 95% of the population at that point who are on a basic income. It'll create two distinct classes. We could do a decentralized basic income, but again, where does the money come? It has to come into that system to be able to pay it out. Or we could just have, a sensible, well-informed, rational political party get in within the next 5 years and fix everything. Yeah, I don't think so. I think government is, just like climate change, this is another problem where politicians and government, I don't think they're capable of fixing it. I mean, they've had decades to fix climate change. Nothing's happening still, and you've got countries now pulling out of actually doing stuff. I think automation and wealth inequality is going to be another issue. So after lots of thinking, I was like, okay, what do I do about all this? How do we make something better? Well, obviously a few years ago we had cryptocurrencies come along. That's pretty cool. Now an average person can mint their own currency. And when that first came out, I was like, oh, wow, you can actually use currencies to kind of, motivate user behaviors. If you wanted to create a community and you wanted them to do something to kind of get that chicken and egg network effect rolling, then you could just issue a cryptocurrency and have them do stuff that you want them to do to earn these currencies in the hope that they will become, worth more in the future. That's kind of cool. Then there's obviously Ethereum, and that allows extra layers on top of that. So it's not just about currency anymore, cryptocurrency anymore. It's about actually doing things kind of at a transaction level and kind of creating stigmergic, emergent phenomena. And so after lots of thinking, I was like, oh, well, maybe the issue isn't just fixing automation, or the issue isn't just trying to fix wealth inequality. I think the whole issue is that it's the economic system that we need to fix. I think it's the economic system we need to start questioning, and that is capitalism that we're currently in. Capitalism is not it's got us to this point, and it's been great. It's providing us with an abundance of all sorts of things, but it's clearly kind of this dead weight now that we need to get rid of. Otherwise, it's going to bring us all down. And it's only been around for a couple hundred years. It's not a fixed system. It's not something that's it's not a universal law. So anyway, I come up with a concept called purism, because you've got to have an ism on the end. So I want to build a new economy that actually has a viable transition strategy. It's not this hand-holding hippie stuff. It's what can we work with now with the technology we have to gradually transition people to something better. So purism is it solves job automation and wealth inequality via a blockchain-based economic protocol which matches paid work tokenized individual skill levels, and then shares the wealth from AI. There's a lot. There's a lot in there. There's a lot of kind of moving parts to this, but basically the key is to focus on individual work and giving people work, because as automation comes in and starts like decimating jobs, there's going to be chaos. I mean, people are going to be basically grasping for any type of income and stability they can find. So it's an awesome catalyst point to actually start transitioning people to something better. If you can offer them a system where they can join that and just instantly start getting paid work and instantly start leveling up and kind of like learning while working at the same time, that would be awesome. And this evolved from an idea I had a few years ago I called it Jobs RPG. Like, wouldn't it be awesome if jobs were like role-playing games where you know every task you got was like a little challenge, and if you completed that challenge, you'd earn tokens, you'd earn skills for that, and then so you level up. So rather than just being I'm an accountant, obviously you're an accountant, but you might be really good at photography as well, but the economy doesn't recognize that. Your employer doesn't recognize that. They don't give a shit about your photography skills. They only care that you're good at accounting. So wouldn't it be cool if you were like, well, I'm level 99 accountant, but I'm also like level 300 photographer. And rather than being just one thing for one employer and them having all the power, suddenly you have like a quantified ledger of all your skill sets and all the tasks and all the levels that you're really good at, and work just comes to you. So you get to pick and choose what you want to do rather than being told what to do. So to do that, first we need a skills ledger. So the cool thing about the blockchain is that you basically have a decentralized, almost like database. So I think the first challenge is to basically create a ledger of, imagine if every one of us in this room right now had a quantifiable list of like, here's all my skill sets. I'm really good at photography. I'm really good at accounting. I'm really good at like making dank memes for Reddit. Like, I'm really good at making GIFs, like anything, some super, super varied things that you couldn't even think of, that definitely don't have market demand right now. What's another one? Like epic fidget spinner 3D printer. Like, I'm just really good at 3D printing fidget spinners. There's obviously no employer out there right now that wants to pay for that, but there is demand out there. People want that skill. But the problem with this is you have to have something that's completely decentralized, where the skills are recognized across the entire economy. I mean, your LinkedIn profile, you might have all your skills in there, but it says jack shit about what you're actually good at. It's a lie. Your resume, it's a lie. I mean, and not just even in the obvious sense. Like, even if you're telling the truth, like if someone reads your resume and says you're good at this, 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 and this, it says nothing about you. It says nothing about your actual proficiency of those skill sets and the work you've done. That's why there are the references, and they have to call up all these references and stuff. And then on top of that, even if you get a degree at a university, that degree is not transferable. If you get a doctorate degree in India, you can't transfer it to Australia. That's silly. Shouldn't we have a system where all of our skills are universally recognized? They're quantifiable, not just qualitative. It's not just you saying I'm really good at this thing. It's like literally says I'm good at this because here's my entire history of doing that, and I have an actual number applied to that skill set. So to do that, with the technology we have available and blockchain, we need skill tokens. So the idea would be that if you really want to become the best in the world at, say, 3D printing fidget spinners, and it's a very, very unique, very, very niche thing, what you would do is you would do tasks, and you would do unpaid tasks, and like both paid and unpaid, and you would kind of help other people within that community, and by doing tasks for them and by helping them out, you earn those skill tokens. So you would earn fidget spinner tokens. And this sounds a little bit crazy, but I think it's the only way to actually have that system where you have a quantifiable list of all the skill sets you have. So if you've earned 10,000 3D printing coins by doing tasks for various people, and you've earned 5,000 fidget spinner coins, and you've earned 300 accounting coins, and these coins are all floating cryptocurrencies. So imagine Ether, imagine Bitcoin, but basically any word you can imagine becomes a coin, becomes a token, and you do all these things. That way they become transferable, so you actually have a quantified ledger of your skills. Hope that makes sense. So for example, what you do is like, okay, fidget spinner. there's definitely no market for that. There's definitely not going to be a course done anywhere online at the moment, or definitely not in any university, about 3D printing fidget spinners. But there's obviously a community. So what you could do is you could create in this Pearson system, you would be able to create a 3D printed fidget spinner token, and that token would be attached to a community. So imagine like a subreddit. If anyone about subreddits, so imagine you can create a subreddit or you can create a Facebook group. You call it fidget spinner 3D printing. That then also becomes its own floating cryptocurrency, and then people within that community share content and help each other out and earn these fidget spinner coins when they're worth essentially nothing. But by doing that and helping each other and earning these coins, that adds value to that community, adds value to that token. You can still have your speculators come in and throw money in, which blows it up even further. And then now that becomes its own little microeconomy. So you have a fidget spinner microeconomy. There is also a community. There is also representative of a skill set, and all those people in there are basically ranked on how good they are within that community. Then what you can do is anytime anyone anywhere across the economy, not just like downtown, anyone anywhere across the economy has a problem and they need someone to help them out with 3D printing fidget spinners, they can then put that into the system, and not the platform, not building a job platform, I'm not building a website, I'm not building some closed system. This will be anyone can build anything on top of this system. So if you say, I need someone who's really good at 3D printing fidget spinners, the moment you post that into the system on my app or someone else's app or anything, instantly it connects them to the people with those skills, because on one side we've got a quantified list of everyone's skill sets. On the other side, we've got a list of all these tasks associated to a necessary skill set, and in the middle it's just like an exchange, just like any other cryptocurrency exchange. You've got a buy and sell. So on one side you've got to buy all the task ledgers, and on the other side you've got a skill ledger, and you just match them. And so what you could end up with on a practical level is literally a task feed. So rather than this bullshit of going to jobs and just hating it and being really terrified by it, you literally can just wake up, work whenever you want. You can then have a list of the tasks that are matched directly to you, and you can pick and choose which ones you want to do. And you can then instantly be connected to that person who's employing you and just chat about that and complete the task for them. None of this bidding crap like Freelance and all those other companies do. None of this like competing to the bottom for who can get the cheapest labor, which is what those companies do. Instead, the power goes back to the individual, because they get to choose which task they want to do. If they don't want to do that task, they just ignore it, or they pass on it. And the cool thing about this is it makes every single worker resilient to automation, because if one of your skills is automated, say like you've got 9,000 accounting tokens and you're level 9,000 accounting. If that gets automated, who cares? You've got 20 other skill sets in your ledger to fall back on, and you just keep getting tasks fed to you, and you get to pick and choose which ones you want to do. And so, as I also mentioned, it's decentralized, meaning that this is not a platform that you would typically think of in the startup world, where like I'm going to launch a job platform and it's going to run on my servers and it's going to be my data and all this other crap. No, this is decentralized. So it's open source, it's free, it's permissionless. Like anyone will be able to join this system without asking. There'll be no sign up form. You literally just like plug in. So we'll be building a kind of an app, like a regular app that you can use to kind of join communities and post work and get tasks fed to you. But that would just be a proof of concept. Anyone else who wants to create a better app, or anyone else who wants to create, say, the future of work for chefs, or the best future of education app for children, whatever, it can all plug into the same system. They can all earn the same tokens. Those tokens are transferable across all platforms, so they're universally recognizable. We can get rid of universities. We can get rid of jobs. It'll be awesome. It's also organic. I think I said this before, how basically every single community almost starts like an ICO, like a crowd sale. I mean, if you start a new skill, that becomes its own microeconomy, it becomes its own skill set, it attracts investment, that attracts people to it, and it basically, its price would represent really the demand for that skill. If right now 3D, like fidget spinners are going crazy online, if you notice that. Wouldn't it be awesome if we had actually a market value attached to that, which attract more people in, which then gave those people work and jobs, which would be awesome. Like all these, 14-year-olds spinning fidget spinners could actually like get paid for the knowledge they've acquired in that little micro community. So that's stage one, connecting people and basically freeing them from the slavery that is jobs. After that, we can then do a bot and human hybrid, because you've basically got tasks coming in on one side, you've got skills coming in on the other side, you've got a marketplace, an exchange in the middle. So what we can do is have a bot marketplace where you allow anyone to create a bot to basically automate any task coming in to any of those communities. The bots by default would be commons owned. Nobody owns the bot. And so this is an awesome, like, kind of back to Marxist kind of philosophies of, like, a lot of the exploitation kind of stems from people owning property and resources. So we can have a system where you can still make profit off the bot. So you can create a bot, you can still make profit off it, but it's just owned by the commons. It's owned by all of us. Because what would happen is anytime a task comes into the system, first the bots would have a go at it. If the bot solves it, then a huge percentage of that profits would then get spread back to everyone as a kind of a basic income, and a small percentage of those profits would go to the creator. So there's a profit motive for creators and developers to actually want to build bots to solve tasks. So we're simultaneously freeing people from jobs and the misery of jobs and the terrifyingness of being automated, and then we're actually automating at rapid speed, as fast as possible, to automate as much of the cognitive tasks in human society as possible, and then sharing that wealth from those automations. So yeah, it's all owned by the commons, and all of it's shared out. We're also going to be experimenting with things like so universal basic income, but not just distributed from a top-down system, actually distributed through pathways and networks within each of the individual nodes, and also universal credit. So I think it'd be really cool to have a system where money never, ever, ever sits idle. If you have, say, $1 million, a million of these tokens, which convert to fiat dollars, if you have them sitting in your account, sure, they're theirs, they're yours, but that money's not sitting idle. It's being used constantly throughout the economy. So you wouldn't have this system where people just hoard money and keep it in one's place. And finally, that's the other thing that we'll have to solve as well. So this is a big problem to solve. If we just create a system where you just earn tokens and all that kind of concept, then all you're going to end up having is another wealth inequality issue where you have some people with more tokens than others. I mean, you look at like Ethereum and Bitcoin right now, there's already the 1%. There's 1% of Ethereum holders own 99% of the wealth. Like, it's already happened. So we need a system where we can actually apply economic policies rather than from the top down. We can actually apply them directly at individual interactions and transactions, so that economic policy, rather than being enforced from a government top down, it actually emerges based on individual transactions between each other. And that's really what decentralization is all about. It's all about peer production and basically building things together. And I think the product of all of this is that we can actually build a peer-to-peer society where everyone basically has freedom and there's abundance, and we can actually do what we want to do without any coercion, without any need for all of these centralized entities like banking, governments, universities. We don't need them. They're not necessary in the future that we're building. And this is really what, if you saw Vinay Gupta talked recently at the European Parliament, and he talked about how blockchain is kind of like a future trading partner. You need to think of the blockchain and of decentralization technologies as future trading partners, as literal like overseas external countries, but they are the future and they're trading back. They're a future trading partner, and so you create future trading ports, which is really cool. So big problem. But there's definitely a starting point, and I think we can actually do it. So the next step is we're hiring. So if anyone is interested and wants to help out, check out the website. Also, get involved. This is a huge problem. I don't want to be dictating how the new economy should be. I think we need everyone's voice involved in this. So I'd love to, first step is basically build a community. We'll be doing an ICO either at the end of this year or probably early next year to help fund development, and then go from there. So check out purism.org for more details, and get in touch. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
I've got 99 winemaking, and that's how I don't make now.
See, it's got to be on a system though. It's got to be
99 winemaking tokens. I've got the silver cane.
Yeah.
Okay. So, question. So, peerism is obviously your presentation is about. So, and I applaud you for your altruism, okay? But may I say that a lot of it came across, and you said the word Marxist yourself, a lot of it came across as being quite Orwellian. And I'll be frank with you.
Yep.
Because you need honest feedback. Now, Ethereum and what a lot of these folks here are about the fact that it has tripled its price or tripled its price in the last 6 months.
Yep.
And that's why they're here today. That's why you get such a big crowd. That's not why I'm here.
Yep.
Because I know what a Turing complete virtual machine can do for me on top of a blockchain.
Yeah.
In terms of distributed application. Now, I'm not thinking advanced now, but the reality is that a lot of what you've said is to me, I applaud you, but it sounds to me it's very, if I'm an accountant with 9,000 tokens and I want to give my friend here 4,000 tokens, you can track that. If I want to slip in $100 note, you can't track that.
Yeah.
Okay? And so if I want to give him kudos, no one knows.
I like it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we need to get away from this whole idea of everyone's the same, everyone's equal. That's bullshit. That's just not how the world and the future works. Because the past didn't work that way, and the future ain't going to work that way. Everyone's here to make some cash, and we're going to realize that we cut out the middleman. The reality is cutting out the middleman, the banks, and these people who post $4.5 billion net profit per annum every year, okay, we get rid of them, and you and I, and this man, everyone else, we all got a chance at lifting our level of living, okay, to a greater degree. That's the reality. And that's why most of us are here. So I applaud you, absolutely. But I'm just saying, it's not about equality, it's about getting rid of the middleman.
Yeah, and like there's definitely, so I think that the blockchain narrative has definitely already been hijacked by the fintech crowd, the corporate crowd, the investors, the banks. I mean, the fact that there's like banking consortiums and crap like that, it's kind of funny because like the blockchain was really all about, and I mean like Vitalik and those guys, like, you know, they're kind of like, it's the crypto anarchists. That's the guys who started this whole scene. But I think at the same time, like the fact that all this money is being poured in by these type of groups, by the investors, by the big corporates and stuff like that, it's only adding fuel to that fire. I think the fact that it's like at the core, the technology is decentralized at its core. I think this time's going to be different. Like whereas the internet when it was first started was, you know, it was a decentralized technology, but it's now being co-opted and now you've got like, you know, 4 or 5 websites you visit and everything's behind paywalls and Facebook owns everything. I think this time's different because the technology just allows unstoppable decentralized things to be built on it.
I mean,
so it's
don't get me wrong. This is why I love Bitcoin, because of the ability to create a decentralized application. Not because of what an is worth, but because it's the gas that powers the transaction. It's what incentivizes people to run Ethereum nodes, so that every person in their bedroom, in their back room, whatever, their basement, runs an Ethereum node. And what incentivizes them to do that is the fact they get paid to run that Ethereum node, right?
Yep.
So that's the fundamental tenets of what Ethereum.org is all about, right? And you know already.
And that's really what, like, so that's why this project is focused on at the start, like giving people money. I mean, I'm very, very aware of like the human drivers right now in our society is to make profit and to kind of get ahead, and there's a competitive factor. So what I want to do is kind of leverage that and to bring people in, but then as automation is also becoming a catalyst and people are losing their incomes and losing that aspect, to then move them into a different direction. Yeah.
Just had a question about like what type of work do you see moving across this network? Because it seems like the work that would be the easiest to ship and the easiest to move across an app is also the work that's easiest to automate. So if I could send a random person a random unit of work that it can just pick up, execute, and hand back to me, it's done. I can give that to a bot, like you said, and it will never get to a human. So a lot of the jobs that are adding value are ones that are closer to a person, or adding some service or some level of comfort beyond what I can execute remotely via an app.
Yeah, I think that's because when we look at things like that are outsourcing type things, like you look at like freelance, you look at mTurk, you look at all these other kind of gig sharing economy things, they are all about like just small little tasks that you've just kind of outsourced out. But like at the end of the day, like it's just, I mean, inside someone working a full-time job, they're at the same time they're not doing some magical thing beyond their own brain's capability. Every day they're just doing small little tasks. They're just moving towards a bigger, more complex project, I guess. So in this system, you can still have complex projects. It's not going to be all about like little incremental things. I mean, you can still have massive projects be fed through, and then because this system, rather than having like you have to write up a big proposal and then you have to like send it out and then you have to like, you get 100 bids that are all, Indian contractor companies that you got to like sort through. Instead of that, this system's going to be, you get a big project come in, maybe it could be like it could be $100,000 project, comes in, it lands to someone who's like really good at, say, project management skills because they got all those levels. They can then instantly split that up and send it out instantly. And there's no bidding involved. That's the problem. It's one-click claim. So you could have a task, you split it up into however much you want, you then send it out, it's matched to someone. If it's too big for them, they can then send it out and match it to someone, and it's one-click claim all the way down. So I still got to definitely work out a way to like sort out issues where, what if someone doesn't provide the quality of work that was expected. But I think by having that one-click claim option, like if you're an average worker and you sit there and you like, a task comes in, you don't want to have to like bid and like do all the typical freelancer crap where you're like, wearing 10 million different hats. You're just really good at that skill. You want to do it right now. You just go, cool, done, and now I'll do it. I'll work on it and get it done and get it back to you. So hopefully that solves that problem. Yeah. Yep.
So like teaching exactly what I do with my students. Half of you not get a job in the specialization workforce.
Yeah.
How do you motivate that generation?
Yeah. How do I motivate people who are going to...
How do, universities should still be around, but we're seeing a change.
Yeah.
Test. Hello?
One of my uni students, I'm saying, once you get a job, you get out of here. Think about what you're going to do.
Yeah.
But it doesn't dawn on them, I think, until it might be.
Yeah. Well, I think my hope is with this system, like, eventually, like, 10-year-olds could jump on it and just start earning money straight away. Like, how cool would that be? If you're a 10-year-old and you're really, you're really good at this one particular skill, or you've got a bunch of different skills, rather than waiting until you go to university and then waiting further, like, you can literally jump on, start doing paid requests, and start making like $50 per gig or whatever straight away. Like, that's pretty cool. So I think on that side, that's where you might be able to get that group of that demographic. But I still think the major catalyst is going to be the automation factor. Just as that chaos starts happening and people start like freaking losing their minds because they're like, holy shit, I've lost my income and my purpose. I'm hoping that this will be mature enough by then that there's other things where they can jump onto it and they can start actually, learning from each other and pursuing their own interests and their own passions rather than picking from a board that, here's what people are employing right now. Here's the university degrees that are all 10 years out of date, and then here's the list of jobs you can choose from. Pick one. It's like, well, what if none of them? I'm not interested in any of them. Like, why do I have to pick from the board? So, yeah. And that's the thing. You can't. I've heard that saying before. Like, you can't. The education system will not be able to keep up with the future because you can't teach what you don't know what's coming. So you have to enable people to pursue their own passions, quantify all those skills so you know what everyone's good at a transferable rate, and then just give them tasks when they come up.
It's like Ethereum now. Instead of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a quick question. The gentleman up the front spoke to
Yeah.
I'm interested in like this further modifying the job market that already exists in freelancer side.
Yeah.
For example, a low cost of living countries like Thailand or India, functionality versus any Western nations. So
Yeah.
on that topic.
Yeah, so I've thought a lot about that as well. Like, I'm not sure if it's obviously all this is still developing. I'm not sure if it's the perfect answer, but I think because it's not based on, because there's no bidding factor, so that removes the price war to the bottom. I mean, you notice on any of those sites, someone will put out a bid. They'll be like, okay, I'm willing to pay $200 or whatever, and then you get 100 bids saying, I'll do it for like 100, I'll do it for 50, and so there's a natural bidding war to the bottom. So that's really bad. I think with this system, because it's based on skill levels going up, and I mean, so the idea would be that if you're an employer and you go into the system and you want to get someone who's really good, has the skill levels to actually achieve that task, then you kind of want to pay higher. So the higher you pay, the better skill level you get, rather than at the moment it's like the motivation is like pay lower to get the cheapest cost, because you wouldn't have any people bidding. If you put out a gig that's really low as an employer, then you're just going to be naturally matched to someone who's really low skilled at doing that task. So you're going to get shitty work. Whereas if you pay higher, you're going to be naturally matched to someone who's quantifiably better at that task. So it kind of, I hope that mechanism alone would encourage people to pay more. And on top of that, because the individuals are picking and choosing what they want to do, and that are just being fed and matched to them, that kind of gives them the power a little bit more, rather than like begging to get the approval from the.
So I think it'd be an interesting point with people on the employee demand, that the employer's supply side,
Yep.
all freelancing sites show that the employer demand is for pricing.
Yep.
They don't want to have one click first person.
Yeah. Well, that's because obviously freelancer wants to make their owners billionaires.
But is that freelance or is that their marketplace? Because
Yeah.
tasks in here, giving people to put tasks in, which is best price.
Yeah. And
Versus, this is more of a
yeah, so it's the typical like two-sided marketplace issue. All those companies are focused on the employer side. They really don't give a shit about what the employees get paid or what their lives are like. That's the difference. And I think the other thing I can do with all of this as well is because it won't all just be about paid tasks. And that I think that's a key difference as well. Like you go onto all these other sites, it's all about you're just doing stuff for money, and it's all about paid tasks. Whereas this other side, on Purism, it's all going to be about helping each other educate, because it's peer-to-peer learning. So it's like every skill is its own little community. It's like its own subreddit. Imagine if every single subreddit had a coin attached to it. If that coin starts off at 0 and it starts going up, then you get more people coming in, helping each other, helping them learn. Really only when it gets to a certain scale where it's actually got enough value and enough skill sets in there, only then will you attract employers who want to like actually get some of that skill set out and get some benefit from it. So that could be a model. But yeah, it's untested ground. I mean, no one's done this before, so we'll see how it goes. But join the community and put these ideas out there. Yeah.
So you said that skill essentially their own cryptocurrency.
Yep.
Would you also see that individuals their own cryptocurrency, so like sort of people buy and sell your time essentially?
Yeah.
What do you see as the remaining system, just the skill set? The model of like
I think there's a lot of people that are kind of doing stuff similar to that, but the platform's going to be completely open. So if you want to create, your name as a subreddit, as a coin, like you're going to be free to do that. But like, so I'm pretty wary of like the attention economy concepts, where like, 24 hours, we must have an economy built on scarcity. So 24 hours is the scarcity factor. So we all have 24 hours in our day. So that will make that the point, and you'll be able to sell your time and buy and sell your time. I think that's bad because, again, you get a race to the bottom. It's like, well, who can I get for the cheapest amount for their time? And then it's also the issue where well, if robots and AI are always going to beat you on time, like they're always going to end up doing a task far faster than you can. So I think the better thing to do will be to focus on individual skills, with the knowledge that those skills are going to eventually be toppled. Like, you might build up 20 skill sets, and every year you might get one of them knocked off by automation. But eventually you've still got something there that has a semblance of purpose to your life and income coming in. So, yeah. Yep. Social consensus for bots? I can't hear you. Sorry. Yeah. 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 So that whole part I haven't really worked out yet, because the way I kind of conceptualize it is that the task would come in, and so the task would be attached to like a hashtag skill. So all the skills that I figured like be hashtags, if people understand that. So if you want a 3D printing task done, or like say CAD, you want a CAD model done, so you send it into hashtag CAD or whatever, and in that community you would have a whole bunch of bots that people have built. And somehow, this probably wouldn't be able to happen on-chain at the moment, just because the computing is just not there. But imagine you have, say, 1,000 bots that people have made to make that CAD model. Maybe something easier, and some accounting thing. Someone's made an accounting task, it gets sent in, the economy recognizes it, it routes it to that community. Then there's 1,000 bots that people have built. All those bots have a go at it, and then they return some so working out which bot did the best work, and somehow A/B testing the bots against each other is something to work out. I don't know how to do that, but basically the idea that task comes in, bots have a go at it. If the bot's done a really good job, cool. That bot creator gets a little bit of the money, the profit, or the whatever, and then the other part of that gets spread out to people within that community in some way. Probably not just a top-down thing, but in some kind of networked system. But if the bot doesn't solve it adequately, then it gets put into the human system where it's matched to the people with the levels to have a go. So it's kind of like the human bot hybrid. Just because it's silly to be competing against bots if they can do a better job. Yeah. The thinking is that, well, once you get these communities to a certain size, sure, anyone could go off and build their own proprietary-owned corporate bot that runs external to this system. But if there's enough of a community there and there's enough bots that community is built, then the network effect of that is that, well, if you want a task done well and instantly and cheaper, then you will just go to this economy, because the old economy where XYZ Acme Corp, just they cost too much. You may as well just go here. Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. So awesome. Thanks, guys. So yeah, just grab some drinks and then we'll line up the Skype guy.
Do you mind if at some point I do just literally just 60 seconds brief, just mentioning y'all at some time before people are leaving?
Yeah.
Because then
yeah, maybe just right at the end.
Yeah, right then. And like that way I can do it like super fast, and I don't intend on taking a lot of time because it's not like I have a presentation or anything. But then that way I can at least sort of bring it up and stuff, and let people know something separate.
Yep, cool. Hey man, how's it going?
Jordan, nice to meet you. I really liked your presentation.
Cheers.
For the whole first part, I was like, I agree with everything he's saying. Where's he going? I really like your idea. To solve your bot, the bot is the problem you've got, and I think you've built an excellent platform. And I think perhaps a good way to structure this, because you're going to have trouble like catching on, especially because it's such a grand idea. There's a lot going on. It sounds counterintuitive, but I think you'd have good success making it more bot-centric, and then because then like people can collaborate with bots, or compete. Right? And I think the community bot idea is good, but impossible to do correctly. So I think if you had it so that bots would compete, and you could have maybe a community edition that you get shares in or whatever, something like this. But I really like the model, and I think it could go quite well. But I think focusing on like making a platform for automation, and then letting, and then because automation can then like say, I've got friends that do bug bounty and like security bug bounty, and a lot of that's getting automated now. So if there was like a bug bounty subreddit thing where people could compete their AIs with bug bounties, which is essentially what happens, but then have a community thing. And if you could use this as a platform for AIs, when the automation starts to take over, if it takes over via your platform, then normal jobs just come off. Like that was my take on it. I'm Jordan. Nice to meet you. Pleasure.
Hey, thank you so much for that. David, your name, right?
Yeah.
Look, I 100% agree with you. I think that's where the future is going. Decentralization. And when you think about so many, people like me, for example, I do 10 different things. I don't have one particular career. And if that could be tokenized and somebody else could have it for like such a thing, I think it's a winner. And considering, like most people in the world that don't even banks, and banks. Yeah, but I think it's going to have to also go with a lot of other different areas of like decentralizing. So like the gentleman over there was saying, the price difference between Thailand and Australia, but I think that's a cost that's built into the banking system, the exchange system, the currency value system. So if you actually write that out, you notice that a whole dark is Thailand. You know what I mean? But what I wanted to ask you is, how does the first transaction start? Like, for example, let's make it super easy because I don't know what those three widgets are. Let's say there are three people involved. Two of them are prostitutes. They could be male or female, doesn't matter. One is a better prostitute than the other. There's one customer. Okay? How does this customer, because it's in a locked room, that's why I chose them. How does this customer award the different prostitutes their token, because there are no witnesses, and how does the better prostitute get a more token than the one who just did that?
So the way it would work is like they would create their own little community and they kind of help each other out and up, like maybe a better idea is like so like making gifts or something, like making memes, I don't know, like some little small community. So they'd all get together and they kind of, just like a subreddit, they share content, they comment, they kind of help each other out and they kind of educate each other. And by doing that, they earn some of those tokens. Yeah. By doing that, like, so it's basically like free tokens for just helping each other out. And then anytime someone has a paid request, or even an unpaid request, even if they're just like, I need to speak to someone like right now who, help out with this thing, that task would kind of go out. So if they're willing to pay something $100, you just somehow match it. I don't know exactly how yet, but you match it to that $100 to a certain level of those tokens, and then it would show up in those people's feeds. They can then instantly, like a Facebook feed, they can instantly choose to do that task if they want to. If not, it goes just gradually down.
But I need to know the person is good at it. So are they going to be rated by the community?
No rating. So I guess the kind of is rating. So the rating is based on how many coins you have. So there'll be a little bit of inaccuracy, like because someone might have 1,000 coins and they might have just like shit jobs to get that. But you would hope that. It's very kind of self-organizing. So that you would hope that if someone had 1,000 of certain coins and someone had 500 of them, then even though that 500 person could be better, they just noticed started on something maybe a year ago or something.
How different is this from colonies that I own?
I love colonies. I think they're kind of like structuring it. This could be very unstructured. Okay. So colonies very much like when you assign like tasks and it's very like it's almost like creating a decentralized company.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to do that. I want to go and kind of just like make completely decentralized, almost like cooperative type massive mass production.
I think the time is ready. We are ready for it. I think so.
Yeah, it's just going to be now explained. Cheers, man.
Cheers, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I really like your idea. Go next.
I don't really have a question, but I was just thinking, is there a form for capitalism? Yeah, that was about as far as I went. But I've used, I went on the ePlant website, and I didn't really, I think, your ideas are better.
Yeah, this is just like,
it's just
freelancing
the same kind of thing, yeah. So, yeah. Interesting to see, definitely interested in contributing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, jump on the website.
I'm going to get the details and I'll let someone else ask a question.
Good presentation. Just to let you know, I'm not here for the Ethereum price. I'm here for it for So that's cool. Actually, it's a good thing. Capitalism per se is not a bad thing. Extreme capitalism is a bad thing. And when you said that like society that controls the entire financial the wealth, like that is to me.
Some people, I'm arguing with some people who think that's a good thing. They're like, that's a good thing because I'm going to be one of those people one day. I'm like,
no, you're not. But yeah, I mean, isn't that why there's a lot of wars and poverty in the first place? Because people just accumulate so much stuff that there's enough to go around, really.
Well, then you get to the top and you get to be a philanthropist.
Just to let you know, I love money as well. But yes, what language did you use for this?
So I haven't actually done any code yet. It's still like very much conceptual stage.
Do you have a programming language in mind?
Yeah, like I'm probably going to use the usual like just Solidity and just like Solidity, I guess.
Oh yeah.
It depends on like who basically the plan of attack is like build a community, find developers who are passionate about the topic, then do a crowd sale to then pay the developers, like the usual thing. Yeah.
What about igniting biases and all that sort of stuff? Like, I'm actually helping out a guy who's got this idea of igniting biases. That's a big issue. And I think essentially that's the differentiator between rich and poor and all that sort of stuff. I think that would be really.
What's he doing?
Oh, it's a start. You've got the traditional recruitment, and there's always going to be, this plus that. I think, I don't know, just as a suggestion, that might be a nice thing, to have in terms of having a fair or even,
It's weird thing, like, they can't really go out and get investment. It kind of goes against the ethos of the project. Like,
I guess essentially building a mission and all that kind of stuff. Have you done all that?
It's all on the website.
Okay,
So basically, the process now is like, try and build a community and just kind of like constantly keep posting about it, constantly sharing it, trying to get people in. So it's like just a Discord channel, Telegram channel, all sorts of stuff. And hopefully build up to a big enough point that we can then we can find developers within that group who want to help them like good times, and then do a crowd sale like the key token of the time, and then hire like famous developers and people. just a general, who knows? Like, might work, might not work.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
Yeah.
The whole presentation that you said, I was like, thinking, oh, I wouldn't say that, but I agree with everything, but I wouldn't say everything. So it's really bold. A lot of things that you said.
Yeah, it's hard to be like, it's hard to like deep dive into the stuff and not become very like,
a lot of people don't want you to say those, and like, because we're going to have to look for new jobs or like, but everyone just wants stability. So you just sort of challenge that, and everyone's like, oh,
Basically, this audience, I think the audience and the government, do you think government wants to be
no, they can't. It's like, you'll be completely blockchain and like the beauty of Ethereum, like, you can run stuff where eventually you can have a shutdown. So it's just go wrong. So there's sort of like governments in the past have done good stuff, but like now they just seem to be the plan is to basically but like I was just saying before, like it's kind of like if I went out and invested more, it's kind of like there was getting interest in the project, and it's like now it's corporately owned, and like now it's by investors. It has to be something that's more about it's got to be open source, it's got to be transparent, and like you can't make. And I think I can work out a way to actually have a win zero fees. So you just have to cover the cost of like the gas. Gonna have it so that it's basically zero fees. But still actually be able to generate pay like a foundation or something to keep everyone. And also then obviously other kind of pay basic.
Basically, I think that you just support the Ethereum companies to do some trading.
Oh, no, it's not going to be like it's going to still be we're not building a brand new Ethereum, it's going to be like it's basically, the first thing to tackle, I think, is like the skill tokens concept. Like, how do you have a system where basically have anyone create a skill token? How do you fund that? How do you pay for that? How do you keep it going? How do you sell individual tokens? Like, what do you make every possible combination of words?
I haven't checked out the website, so have you got the white paper ready?
Just the concept. Yeah, pretty much. There's a bunch of like FAQs on there still down, but yeah, no white paper yet. Really do. I don't even know if you need a white paper these days.
There'll end up being a DApp, yeah? There's going to be a DApp. Yeah. And there's only, how many DApps are there? Like 400 or something? I think so, yeah. I think there's 400 DApps. Yeah. That's all early days. 400.
Yeah, this is going to be a 10-year project, like, at least. Like, the hope is that if automation does actually start swapping on jobs, like, that'll be kind of catalyst point to something to change.
I'm quite interested about the Java web. Can you know Java? Yeah, so I don't think everyone running studying Java. What language are you using?
I haven't actually heard anything about it yet, but developers like we'll end up using all of it as well. Unless we can connect to that. I mean, you can build a native, it's like yeah, it's actually there's a link on the website.
Sorry, have you met many other people on the left in the blockchain space? Because it seems to be a lot of like
crypto anarchist, sort of right-wing libertarian kinds of people. And I've been looking for more left-wing anarchists to hang out with.
Oh, cool. I know a few people who are trying to work out stuff like, a mate of mine in Sweden, he's doing a thing called taxi. So the idea of like, well, if you live in a decentralized world, the government can't tax anyone. Yeah. So therefore, they lose their power and can't pay for public services and stuff like that. But obviously things like hospitals and public health and stuff are good. So how do you create a system where you have voluntary tax, where people actually want to pay taxes, they get some benefit, like a basic income or something in return?
Yeah, right.
But it's really like the whole they're all just like investing basically. So.
I'm one of them. Yeah, I put money in as well. I'm like, but yeah.
I like the idea of like social decentralism.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like it's decentralism where there's like no hierarchies, no government, no like central authorities, but it's like there's a social aspect to it. So, social decentralism.
Okay. Cool.
But at the same time, like look at all the like socialist people and all the Marxist people, they see one state as like something that's easy.
Yes.
So none of them are here. So of course
you've got very few allies at this point. Yeah.
Like even there's that socialism Sydney thing coming up, and I messaged them asking if I could speak, and no response.
Yeah.
So, like their whole program has absolutely nothing about the blockchain. Like I would think that the blockchain is like the main driving force of using right now. Like you know what I think they get out of that? The way I understand it, is that now part of its main problem is the centralization hierarchy.
Yeah.
You know? And the solution is decentralization. This is part of decentralization. The internet is part of decentralization.
Yeah.
Not having to get permission from the king.
Yeah.
They haven't yet understood. They see this about making money from the
Or it's a threat. They consider it a threat and they don't want to change.
Decentralization is the usual thing is like, oh, we'll just start a political party, then we'll get in power, and then we'll be really good when we're in power. We'll make everything better.
We promise we'll be good.
Yeah. There's this group called democracy of now, and if that guy is taking blockchain,
oh yeah.
Like you can do a Brexit every day when you can do that like 10 times a day.
We're in, we're out. We're in, we're out.
You can vote on everything, and then the politician is no longer something special.
Yeah.
It's just a technocrat who executes one of the blockchains, right? And they in Buenos Aires in Argentina, they don't try to vote against the political parties and become a party and be voted in the normal elections so that they can introduce a change. And I wrote the one email, I don't know, but I said, maybe it's better because you do the party. Usually for the wall, you can find the market for the wall, there's so many more, right? Like, so people, you can just use the same login on Facebook and make up decisions outside of the political system.
Yeah.
When enough people start using it, if let's say like a politician does X, it's people say Y, that's the script of the system. If you're running products as government, you're not trying to force the master, they're just trying to gain power. But later on, people start taking my so you can't challenge them. They're not going to give you permission. The guys in power will never give you permission.
But you can challenge. If you've got nothing to lose, you can challenge.
Yeah.
If you're part of the group, you can lose. You've got something to lose.
Yeah. So because in part, I think this is something that's going to happen. It's just going to be centralized. Eventually, whether we like it or not. Seems to be the difference. The solution is the government. It seems like every discussion is all different like all the networks are different. Like every sort of things. gonna have I guess the question is always like, what's the federal government with social information policy? And the one was like, it should be like, it makes me essentially suggest these other because in my opinion, the government needs to keep on cooperating.
It's different ways to apply to different aspects of it.
Yeah.
Different weightings, yeah?
Yeah, when you think about it, government, monetary system, banking, corporation, they are so interrelated, you cannot separate them. I mean, the government, for example, look at the monetary system. The government makes 5% of our money. You got the coins and paper in your pocket. The other 95% is produced by the banking system. When you go and get a mortgage, that income from the government, like that's you. Supply in the private system. And then when you mix the game to the politics and to the whatever, then it's the same.
What do you think of like self-sufficiency as an alternative to capitalism? Like if we could have locally run communities where people grow their own food and like sort of help each other out and do jobs and self-sufficient and don't need a boss or whatever to give them a job. Do you see that as kind of maybe fitting into the Purism model? Or is it kind of, I guess it's kind of right counter to it. It doesn't really need any technology.
Like someone could create, say, like a suburb coin or a, maybe you have like a local community coin or something, and then underneath that you have all these kind of connected communities.
Yeah.
So something I want to work out at some point is like, I don't want all these communities like these, so every skill token is kind of like a community. I don't want them all to be really kind of like so much. It's always going to be like so maybe you could have like the American token coin, but under that you have like libraries and sections and something. They all have their own token. And by doing stuff, they all kind of like feed internet ecosystem somewhere.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Because you're organising the demand. You know, if there's demand and it's going to come in, and you know where it is, and then you can know where you're.
The demand also reflects it kind of sucks because you're kind of putting a monetary like a value on everything.
Yeah.
Which is like, it sucks, but like eventually the hope is that like if everyone's paying enough money out of the system to like survive, and eventually maybe rather than chasing money, people change skills for knowledge. So that's pretty cool. But also like we're just all like competing with each other to like get all of this imaginary dollar.
I think that's where you can integrate machine learning. You can actually allow machine learning to guide what's actually important. You know? And that would be, so based on the demand in certain aspects. I think that if you couple the two together, and you integrate that sort of
so I need to get to the next slide. I meant to be an exit. Oh man, sorry, we kind of got delayed. We might have to just drop the stuff. Okay.
Hey man, how's it going?
Good.
You good?
How did the meetup go? I was at a meetup next door.
Oh really, the robot one?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. We're trying to
Just snuck in. Don't tell him.
yeah, we're trying to recruit teachers for our the charity thing we're running.
Okay.
Kids to do deadlines and shit.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're like half an hour overtime.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was just telling him about Ethereum, and it's just like, oh, interesting. We also both would have been like multimillionaires right now if we didn't pull out a Bitcoin back in like 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck. I had $4 grand in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've missed out so many times on all of it.
Yeah. It really sucks being poor in real life.
Yeah. So maybe I'll like, you guys can go now and then we'll like add this guy on later so if people really want to stay around, I guess. Okay. It's all about SpaceX. Okay guys, can you grab a seat and we'll get the next speakers up? Do you guys need a slide?
Are we presenting now? Or,
Yeah. So I'll put your guys.
Okay,
sorry. Yep.
I'm just going to watch this for hotspot. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm hotspotting. We're not going to watch like 10-minute videos, right? You want to check? No, right, it works. Don't worry, we did a classic joke, right? Live demos. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah, what could possibly go wrong with any live demos? Why is it reconnecting?
Yeah, you just need to, your hotspot's died. Wait, give it a sec.
Oh, it's all live.
I was Nathan, don't worry. Where's
Can you get into it?
Well, I'm hotspotting,
that's no good. Where's Nathan?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
I got this, yeah.
Mike.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yes. The Ethereum 2157.
Sorry, which yeah, there's like 100 here.
Password and the username.
Yeah. Oh, it should be working now. Probably not entirely reliable though.
Oh no, it's Charlie, I think. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh no, actually, no, it's not that one. It's guest. Where'd it go?
Guest?
Oh, yeah, guest. LSE guest.
Thank you. Yeah. So, one moment. Yeah, sweet. Thanks.
Welcome to the Atlassian network now.
Yeah. Bring up this slide.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Tim Bass. I'm from Block 8, and I've been going to the Ethereum meetups for the last 12 months. So this has been really cool for me. When I first started coming here, we had the DAO, and to see how far it's come and sort of how much we've learned has been pretty interesting. So off the bat, I just want to give some credit to the Ethereum community in general. We actually learn a lot off the back of these meetups, and it's been, I guess, a real honour for us to be here to actually talk about what we've built on the back of that knowledge. So yeah, thank you, just initially. All right, so Block 8 is an incubator that's based in Sydney. We decided early on that we wanted to build blockchain applications, but we couldn't quite land the app that we wanted to build. So we realised there were a lot of science projects out there being built, and people didn't necessarily understand the problem they were trying to solve. So we're a bunch of technologists and developers, and we decided that why not partner with people that actually understand the problem. So we said, let's assemble a team of really smart, capable people and partner with subject matter experts. So we've done that recently, and we've spent probably 8 or 9 months building an application called MyStake, which we're going to present tonight. And it's going to be really cool, so thank you. This is Kim.
Thanks, Kim. Rhymes with Tim, keeps it easy. So MyStake, the reason we started looking for an application like this is, as a startup, we had problems around share management, cap table, sweat equity, and how we're going to keep track of all of that. So we looked into ways that a lot of startups do this, and if they even do it at all, which a lot of them don't, a lot of it was done in Excel. And we kind of go, look, if we're going to be the blockchain guys, we really need to record this on blockchain. The more we started looking into it, the more we thought, okay, there's actually the potential that this app could do a lot more, and we could even commercialise it. So we do this by tokenizing shares on blockchain, so the shareholders have their own wallets. Obviously, all of the benefits that go along with that, we could transfer and things like that. That's fed into a cap table for cap table management. We can then record additional things as hash documents on blockchain, like dividend statements, things like that, company announcements. The more we got into development, we started looking at, well, look, the company secretary or whoever is entering all of this information into the app, wouldn't it be great if it could actually tie into ASIC and handle the regulatory body that looks over all of this? So that's what we're working on now as well. So it's aimed at really, directors, shareholders, company secretaries, things like that, guys in startups. For the VC, having everything as a tokenized share, you can kind of get a top-down approach, a top-down view of your portfolio dashboard. So it's interesting for that use case as well. We've got a free mobile app in the iOS, free iOS app, free Android app for all users. Currently in a private beta, so mystake.io is the website if you want to go and sign up. What we've learned along the way is that it's really hard. So the co-founders, the 3 of us, we're not necessarily from a strong development background, so we found some guys that were much smarter than us who are now going to show some of the things that we've learned, mainly around the EVM. It's compared to what a user wants to do and what they've come to expect. It's quite slow. There's a lot to be desired. So you kind of have to find that sweet spot of what's good for a user and then what's actually feasible on blockchain as well. So we've got a bit of a demo about Web 2 and the usability that we come to expect, and then using it with the Web 3 protocol. So I'll pass to Matt and Mike to kick that off. Thanks.
All right. Ooh, presenter. Let's see how this goes. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Matt, and this is Mike across my left, and you've met Kim, Tim, and that's Phil, who's our main DevOps guy. He's the guy who keeps all the infrastructure running. So if something breaks, speak to Phil. So you might remember us from previous projects such as Horizon or Liberty and Company, and we've been here at the meetups a couple times for a while now. And our main ambition is to do something real with Ethereum, with blockchain technology, and really justify that, 330 AUD price per ETH at the moment. So my background, I'm Bachelor of Engineering, Honours in Software, and Bachelor of Commerce at the University of Sydney. My honours thesis was on transaction cost analysis of futures contracts on the blockchain built on Ethereum. And I've mentioned some of the previous companies I've worked with Mike and with another friend of ours who's now at Coinbase doing some pretty amazing stuff. And Mike has a Bachelor of IT Honours currently doing Bachelor of Commerce in Finance. And his thesis is going to be pretty awesome. It's on exploit discovery within the EVM. So we know that any smart contract we make will, fingers crossed, not go the DAO way. And yeah.
No guarantees.
And remember, guys, he's not a financial advisor, so any advice he gives on investment is simply just opinions. So, in all seriousness, though, our motivation is that, for this presentation, is that we believe that the current distributed app ecosystem is still very early stage, and that for the normal user, for the person on the street who will be using these apps in the future, the technology is not quite there yet. But it's at $330. It's constantly rising. How do we harness this momentum? I don't know if anyone saw Alan Kohler on ABC misspell Ethereum on the finance report. So we know it's out there. And really our motivation here at Block 8 for Mike and I is that just because Mist is still hard to use, just because syncing with the Ethereum network is slow and takes time, this doesn't mean that we cannot leverage the Ethereum protocol for normal users. So, Meteor.js and Ethereum. I'm not sure how much we all know about Meteor, but it's this great Web 2.0 framework that it integrates the latest in web technologies, allows for dynamic web applications that immediately, in real time, respond to user input. Now, if there's one thing about Ethereum dApps, they do not immediately respond to user input. So I don't know how many people here have used MetaMask. It's a browser plugin to integrate with Ethereum distributed applications, such as Aragon. It takes time. You have to sign every application transaction. You have to make sure that all your keys are ready to go. And it's a very, very painful process for a normal user. Trust me, I tried to get my dad using it. It did not work well. So what we do, what we've been looking at is using the existing Web3.js, Salt.js infrastructure as the backend for Meteor for these existing web applications so that you can write, deploy, and execute these smart contracts that you've written in Solidity that work on the Ethereum chain and link it to your real-time, user-friendly, can run it on Chrome, Firefox, whatever web browser, Internet Explorer, goodness forbid, that the regular user currently can interact with. So the upshot, your app is responsive and it's secured by the blockchain. So what I'll now introduce Mike to explain the more technical intricacies is what we've been doing at Block 8 with our MyStake app, which Tim and Kim spoke about briefly earlier.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Matt. So basically, the way it works is you've got your front end, right? You've got your Meteor.js, HTML, CSS stuff, right? And then that connects to via RPC calls to the Ethereum blockchain. And basically, that's how you do transactions to the blockchain. That's how you submit data. And you can also retrieve data using the same RPC calls. So RPC calls stand for remote procedure calls, and it's just a method of basically communicating with some of the service. In this case, the service you want to communicate to is the Ethereum blockchain. So the way it works is basically, and we'll go through a live demo for this soon, what could go wrong with that? Anyway, where you basically have to run this other server or this other protocol, I guess, called Geth. And this will allow you to communicate with the wider blockchain, whether it be a private blockchain or a more general blockchain, or like a public blockchain. So what I've got an example here, and it won't be too technical, is basically typically how we communicate with the blockchain. So what you want to do is you want to submit a transaction. And if you guys are familiar with database theory, you basically want to have the transaction atomic, right? In other words, like the whole transaction has to finish or none of it at all. So the way you do this, for example, in Meteor, is via what's known as a promise chain. So what we've got here is, for example, like this promise that allows you to issue new dividends, right? So the first step you've got there is you've got to unlock your account because somebody's got to pay for it. Nothing's for free on this network. It's a very capitalistic system. And the second thing you got to call is the transaction itself in order to actually, like, say, issue the dividend. And the third part you've got there is basically the response that you get back from the callback. So if that's successful, then you'll get, for example, the contract address back, and you'll also get the transaction ID back. So you know the transaction you need to reference in order to get the data from the blockchain. So resulting transaction is you get in Geth, in the command line, you get like a little TX number there, a TX character there. You get a string, which is basically a hash that links to that original transaction, so you can perform other calls to reference that transaction. And basically, for example, with issuing dividends, you'll basically fill out the form, issue a certain number of dividends per share, a timestamp as well, and any other data. So you can save any data on the blockchain, and typically you do this via what's known as JSON format. So you'll click, for example, issue distributions, and then it'll fire off this transaction, and this will record that you've issued a dividend on the blockchain. And that's just a very simple example of what we do. So I guess the issue is the fact that I know, like a lot of us here, like to be idealistic, that we want everything to be completely decentralized from the beginning. Unfortunately, the technology just isn't there yet, because as Matt pointed out, for example, using MetaMask, you get delays because it takes on average 14 seconds to mine a block, to get your transaction in the block, and then to get a response. So it's very, very slow. And for us techies and all of that, it's fine. But for the average user, they're like, well, I can just go to my banking app and it's instant. So why would I want to use a web application where everything takes like 14 seconds on average? So the solution we sort of came up with is a bit of a compromise, and it's not going to be there forever, right? Ultimately we want to remove, MongoDB and basically just connect to the blockchain itself. But at the moment, what we do is we sort of have an interface where we have like your traditional web application where you have the server, MongoDB, you're running Meteor, and you communicate with the database. And you can also communicate with the blockchain itself, and use the blockchain as sort of a immutable record to verify all the other data you've got on the application locally. But why do we use something such as Meteor? Well, basically because it's real time. The data gets entered in there almost instantly. There's no delay for the average user. So for the average user, everything is real time. Mobile application is real time. The web application is real time. Yet the transactions are ordered in such a way that you'll still get the right result in the end. So what are the disadvantages of this system? Well, number one, it's not completely decentralized. We're merging, say, Web 2.0 technologies with Web 3 technologies. So we basically still have a centralized web app that is sort of decentralized in terms of the data that you store, but at the same time, it's still a web app that we run on our own servers itself. Currently we're storing the keys for the users. So obviously, we've got to protect our own web server, and hopefully we can migrate it such that the users run their own system when we have, say, a multi-sig system, but, that's for future development. And another disadvantage is basically you have to duplicate data, because you're saving the data on MongoDB, but you're also saving it to the blockchain itself. And so you've got to do a bit of cross-referencing, which is quite annoying and can be quite difficult. So obviously in the long term, we want to move away from MongoDB and go to a completely decentralized web application. But at the moment, I just don't think the technology is really there for the average user. And now we're going to do a live demo. So, yeah.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, absolutely. Everything's fine. Right. Yeah. So how do we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you want to bring up on split screen?
Well, I'll just.
Yeah. So just put that over the side.
Oh, we can just go back.
Yeah, exactly. So for the demonstration, what we have for you is the MyStake application, and what we're going to do is the kernel of the app is that you want to deploy companies to distribute shares to equity holders. So what we're going to do today is deploy a company to a Ethereum blockchain. And the three things we want to really demonstrate in this demo is, one, the fact that we're communicating via web3.js to a remote blockchain. Secondly, have a web application that we're running through a regular Chrome browser
that's real time and responds to user input immediately. And thirdly, is something that you can see be commercialized and released to market in a very short time frame. So this screen is, first off, let's just show Geth running in the background. So here we have, I don't know how many people have seen this kind of terminal screen before, but this is a currently private Geth node running mining blocks while the web app itself is running, and we're hooking the web app via Web3 to this Geth node.
So what we're going to do right now is register a new company, and basically this will deploy a new contract, and you'll be able to see the transaction ID on the blockchain itself. So you know it went through just fine. So I'm just going to charge this test card. This is all sandboxed. This is our test server.
All right.
And then now we're going to click this button to deploy the contract. Yep. So basically, we're waiting for the company on the blockchain now, and now we get our transaction here. So this deploys a contract with a particular transaction ID, and this needs to be mined. So you have to wait a little bit. And so there is still a bit of delay because you've got to make sure the company, you got to make sure the company mines. So now the company mines, we've got the callback. So now we know it's deployed. So now we can click into it and do all sorts of things that we like with our application. And, I've done a few examples for here. So we can do things like,
let's issue some shares. Let's see this company rise like Ethereum's price.
Well, let's change the share price. Yeah, that will actually make a bigger impact. Yeah. And then you see it's real time, but the transaction will be deployed on the blockchain, and so it will happen in the right order. And so when we go back to the info screen now, we can see basically what happens with Ethereum. Yeah.
Doesn't that look familiar, guys?
Yeah. We can do things like download PDF generated share certificate where the QR code basically has a hash that's saved on the blockchain, and then on our mobile app you can verify that this document is a legit document and that nobody's committed fraud on you, which is a good thing.
An iPhone app, you would QR code scan that to prove that it's actually real. Yeah. You can't change the share certificate afterwards.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So this hash is on the blockchain. Yeah.
Exactly. So that concludes the demo, and we'll quit while we're ahead. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
We'll just let Tim finish.
So pretty impressive app. So I guess the mission for Block A, we want to commercialize actual blockchain apps. We realize there's a compromise between decentralized and centralized, but that doesn't mean there isn't tremendous, best practice for centralized systems. IT's been built on it for 20 years, AWS, DevOps, all that stuff. We want to build more. We want to build more projects. So we're in private beta at the moment. We're going to commercialize this project very soon. And then we want to use our team to build more projects. So if you've got interesting ideas that you'd like to build, speak to us. We're an incubator. We want to build them. So thank you, everyone. Come and see us if you have some questions. Thanks.
All right, we'll take some.
Okay.
I'll compromise, all right? Yeah. But yes. We won't let it. Yeah.
Do you have something else?
No. We'll take 3 questions, and then just to make sure that we don't keep running over time.
Yeah.
Pick the best one.
Yeah, maybe I don't.
Okay. Does anyone else like to shout out a question?
Yeah, I'm curious. So, heard a lot about Aragon and looked into that and stuff, and you guys seem to be doing more than Aragon. This is awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Holy hell!
Exactly.
The obvious question, have you thought about an ICO or something that way? Or?
Can I answer that? So we want to build real businesses that make real money, that solve real business problems. So no ICOs.
But if the token has value, then maybe,
Okay, so you've just demonstrated.
Thank you.
So I want to come to you and say, okay, you know what? I've got a business idea. I want to do an ICO down the road. How far is your technology down the road where I can actually use this to deploy my virtual company on the blockchain?
So this is designed for private, proprietary, limited businesses in Australia. So we're serving the mid-market, the startups, places like that. So the idea is you register your company with ASIC and you would, enter those details into our platform. So we're trying to remove the ASIC binary as well, right? So the 484 forms, all the stuff that people hate doing and don't do the app's meant to solve that problem as well. So
service you're going to provide as part of this?
yeah, so it's a SaaS play. We're looking at sort of a small monthly fee per company, so it'd be very affordable in line with a lot of the good SaaS apps that are out there at the moment. And yeah, it's unlimited shareholders up to 50, obviously within company rules.
Tomorrow, I can come to you,
Yep.
put on the blockchain, I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, so all your shareholders will get an iPhone app. They know what their stake in the business is, what their dividends, all that stuff. Company secretary would run it. We're looking at potentially doing a secondary market play with the crowdfunding rules that have changed recently. So yeah, we talked to quite a few people about this recently. It's been well received.
And it's just been awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
See us afterwards, guys.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys. So we just got this Michael Skyping in from Spain. I've told him he hasn't got much time.
Lots of Michaels today.
Let's put them again. Oh, wait. All right.
Am I on the screen?
I can't hear you.
You can hear me? Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Where's Ben? Hey, Ben.
It's good.
Hey, Ben. Ben, how do we get mic working? Test of this.
Pass through on your.
On that?
Have you select your audio output from your computer, so it'll be up the top and it'll have a little symbol for audio output. Oh, okay. Go to System Preferences. Yep.
Let's minimize this. Do you want to do it?
Where did it go? You opened it.
What?
Where did System Preferences go?
iCloud. What?
That's it. Yeah. And then go Sound.
Sound.
Yep. And then select your output device as, the HDMI, it's already selected. Okay, let me. It's at 100%. Just disconnect for a moment and go back to normal sound and see if we can hear him now. Yep, definitely.
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just when when the cable's plugged in for some reason. Yep. Yeah, I can't hear you.
Let me know when I'm on the screen.
Let me have a look at this. There we go. Try speaking now.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Sweet. Awesome, cool. So this is Michael Smolenski, Skyping in from Spain. So he's going to talk about his project called Permissionless Blocks. Is that it? Permission Block.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay.
I'll spin you around so you can see people, but you're up on the big screen.
Perfect. Okay. Cool. So I'll just so hello everyone. I'm used to be a Sydney sider as well. I'm based in Spain at the moment. Let me just share my screen.
Yeah, I'll just give you a look at the audience.
Okay. Can you see my screen? So can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so yeah, I'm Michael Smolensky. I'm founder of a company called Auto Contracts. I'm aware that you guys are running over time, so I'm going to try and flick through these slides very quickly. So I'm a member of the Ethereum Australian Meetup group as well, and the Telegram group. So I know quite a few of the guys there because I lived in Sydney for a while, and a bit of an active member of the community there. So today I'm going to be talking about privacy for public blockchains. I was recently over in New York and was a winner of one of the hackathon prizes there for part of this work, along with the Blockbox group from Australia. So well done to them. So I'm going to try and flick through these slides pretty quickly, and then hopefully just do a demo of what I've built. So there's also a white paper about this prototype. So if you take a photo now quickly, if you go to autocontracts.io, you'll see the white paper. And I think that address is on the next slide. Okay, so this is where I'm based right now in Mallorca in Spain. And we've got a little startup community out here doing some blockchain stuff. I'm also working as a consultant in Germany for a share and charge blockchain solution for charging electric cars. So why did I build this permission blocks technology? Well, I was in Australia in 2015 and end of 2015, and I entered a Citibank competition for a real estate blockchain concept. And so that got me into the finals, got a bit of publicity, also came second in a Santander Bank competition for this concept. However, back then in 2015, early 2016, there were still some issues with blockchain technology. So I like to call them two elephants in the room. One of the elephants is around scalability. So vanilla Ethereum or Bitcoin is too slow for most use cases. So for example, Ethereum can process, I don't know, around 7 to 10 transactions per second. But there's now new solutions to make that faster. And the other white elephant in the room was around privacy. So that real estate solution that I had basically was all about recording rental payments on a blockchain. And obviously you can't have that public for everyone to see. So I set out to try and solve that problem of privacy on public blockchains. So just a quick word about private blockchains. You might have heard this before. I was actually an advocate of this as well before we had any other solutions. So a private blockchain is basically just a group of nodes that are basically a club. So you can also hear them called permission ledgers or consortium blockchains. So what it means is that you have to be approved to become a member of this club. Once you're in the club, then it's just a normal blockchain and you can see everything on the blockchain. Now, it's not really practical for most use cases because maybe some of those nodes are your competitors, or maybe you just don't want to share all the information. You know, sometimes it's personal company information or whatever. So what I started with trying to solve this problem is how do we make the state of a smart contract private? So this is my little model of a smart contract. So F1 is a function, so you have an input and you get an output. And there you can see the state inside the contract. So the way I try to solve this is those Ethereum developers in the room will know that you can do a function called send transaction. And what that will do is make a call to a function, and then that will be persisted on the blockchain and broadcast to all the different nodes in the network. The other way you can do it, make a call to a function, is called using a call. So call doesn't actually do any broadcast to the blockchain network. All it does is call the function locally on your local node they call it a dry run in the documentation, just to test that the function is working. So what I used is that second point of a call to be able to call a function, but not let anyone else in the network know what the data is that you send. So that's basically the solution in a nutshell. So how do we do it? Some of you have probably heard about functional programming. So rather than store the state on a blockchain, what we do is, if we have state 0, we have parameter 1, we feed that into the function, and then we get state 1 out. So it's a way of refactoring the Solidity code. So you're never storing state in the smart contract. Yet the smart contract is still able to process the function. And then likewise, state transition 2, you then take the previous output and feed it through the smart contract, and you get the output. And just a little note here, I think Luke Williams is in the audience. He actually wrote a paper following my paper that improves on this whole refactoring process. So you can actually just write a Solidity smart contract as you would today, and it will automatically refactor this for you. Okay, so if we're going to take the state out of a smart contract, well, where do we store it? Well, most solutions today that you'll see out there talking public, what they do is they say, okay, we'll just store the state on an external database. And what we'll do is we'll take a hash of that data, for example, and then we'll just store the hash of that data on the smart contract. Now, that kind of defeats the purpose of having a distributed, decentralized network because, you know, who owns this database, and what's if they decide they don't want to play ball anymore or whatever. So the real way is actually just to have a distributed database storage system like this. And for this solution, I've chosen to use IPFS. I'm not too sure whether many people in the audience have heard about that, but it's quite a mature technology. One of the founder was a speaker at the Consensus conference in New York, and he has quite a lot of following and quite a lot of popularity. Okay, so IPFS is called the Interplanetary File System. What it is content address versioned peer-to-peer file system. So what that means is you take some data and you can create a hash of that data. So that's like people call it a fingerprint. So that hash is a unique ID of only that data. So if the data changes, then the hash will change. So they use that hash like a web address. So you can use that hash to find that data anywhere in the network. So rather than using, like, for example, an IP address, you use the hash address to find the data. So what is permission blocks? Well, this is a very simple diagram. It's the integration of Ethereum with IPFS. And what we're doing is we've got an author. This is one node here, and this is another node here, and they're communicating via 2 channels. But the integration point is an authorization mechanism, so that when the smart contract, so for example, when this node is trying to request data from this node, it goes through an authorization process to query whether they're allowed to have the data. If they are, then the data gets transmitted. I'm also using Tendermint rather than the standard proof of work algorithm for Ethereum, and that makes it an order of magnitude faster. I probably can't go into that. Maybe someone's got questions about that. But basically, we get up to 10,000 transactions a second rather than around 10. Yeah, so this is using permission blocks, it's private sharing of state and secure transmission of data. Okay, I don't want to go into this too much, but this is the network architecture. So there's different nodes here. So some are validators, and that's part of the Tendermint architecture. Yeah, don't want to go into that. We can talk about it later. So using this architecture, we get a governance model, we get scalability, and actually there's no gas in this model. So you can run smart contracts, and you're not going to be charged any gas fees, which is quite good considering the price of Ethereum at the moment. Okay, so I'll jump into a demo of what I submitted at the hackathon in New York. You can also, if you go to auto contracts, you can run the demo. It'll take you to the GitHub page, and then you just run this Docker image. Okay, so let's hope the demo guides are going to be good to me. So what I'm doing is I'm running 2 Docker containers. So these basically are acting, because I'm using one computer, I have to simulate 2 computers. So this is running the prototype, so it tells me to open my web browser at that address. And this is the graphical user interface for it. It's quite simple, but it just kind of shows the concept. So this is me logged in on this device. If I go back and open the address that it tells me on that device, okay, so we have like 2 devices, and the idea is that rather than going through a central intermediary, like for example Google Drive or something, where you go through a cloud service to transmit a file, you can actually transfer a file or data of a smart contract from one device to the other. So if I go here, contracts. So the hackathon challenge in New York was for a microinsurance application, and I just showed how in the value stream there's a whole lot of due diligence and documents and stuff like that that needs to be collected, and this is one way of applying this technology. So here I'm loading up a contract. So this is a view of a smart contract. So all this information up here is actually private. So they're attributes of the smart contract. So it's all the stuff about this particular insurance contract. So on the blockchain, you won't see that. The only thing you see on the blockchain is this data here, which is the blockchain metadata. So for example, I can search for that. And when I search for it, I only get the blockchain metadata. And for me to be able to see it, I need to unlock it. So I need to give it a signature ID. And the signature ID is just a Ethereum account. So you grant permission to Ethereum accounts. And as you can see, for example, if you click on this link here, this is one of those IPFS hash addresses. It's meant to be like an underwriting document. Or you click on the farmer, that opens up a farmer smart contract, and then you click on this IPFS address. And you can see the, for example, this is just a certificate of title for the property. So it's a way that you can attach not only object data, but also files, documents, videos even, anything that you want. And then I could go through and grant myself over here access to this particular one. So signatures. So I enter that signature ID. It says, okay, that's this guy, which is me. And then I click grant. And now you can see that I've been granted permission to see the smart contract. So I can go back and search for that and unlock it. And yeah, now I can see the full details of that smart contract. And then I can click on the link. Sorry. And I can see that document. So the document went from that device directly to that device without any database or intermediary in between. So that's the demo. Go look at the white paper if you're interested in learning more details. So what's next with this technology? This is my last slide. So I'm going to continue with the Microinsurance for Africa project. So a consortium of insurers in Switzerland are interested in seeing through this prototype and seeing where we go with it. But before I won the hackathon, what I was thinking about is an Amazon chain. So that's like a digital bookstore where people can, where creators of digital content can then sell it directly to their readers, to their audience. And this can start with academic books, for example, and then move on to maybe music or video. So that's the end of my talk. I'm keen to hear from any developers that want to get involved, or anyone else that's just generally interested in this technology. So with that, we can open it up to the audience for any questions, or you can get off to the pub and have a beer.
Maybe like 2 questions, or anyone got any questions? No questions. 1 question. Yeah. So the question is like, what do you mean by getting involved? Are you looking to build it out or add more features, or what?
Yeah, so for example, the ICO that I'm thinking about doing, where I'm considering whether to make this an open source project, and then if there's enough interest in the community to actually contribute to the project, then yeah, we can probably make an open source distributed model for building this Amazon store. So I'd be keen for people that are interested in that. I mean, Luke Williams is in the audience, and he's written a bit about the white paper. So anyone like Luke or anyone else that's interested in helping or contributing, then I'd love to hear from them.
Do you have any estimate of what you'd be able to raise with something like this?
An ICO, I have no idea, but I've done a little bit of research, and it's super expensive to actually start your ICO journey. You need a lot of money for promotion, management, and administration. You need community managers and things like that. So, for example, if you've got to watch all the different forums. So if someone's slagging off your white paper saying this is a scam, then straight away you've got to have a response about that. So people that have raised ICOs have told me that you need in the region of 80,000 to 100,000 euros just to promote, to do the roadshow before you do an ICO. So yeah, they used to say ICO, well, you used to hear that ICOs were a good way to raise money for an open source project. It sounds a bit difficult.
Okay, I'm going to summarize that. Have you thought of using it for healthcare? Because you've had like siloed healthcare providers not sharing data across to each other. Yeah, have you thought of using this for healthcare?
Well, actually, I wrote a LinkedIn article just recently about the ransomware attack. So if you go to my profile, Michael Smolensky, you'll see me talk about that. I just use it as a plug, actually, for my work, talking about how you could use such a system for medical records, and rather than the or health records, rather than the hospitals having your health records, you actually keep your own personal data on your own devices, and then you grant permission to your physician to see, all of that data or part of that data. And actually, I was just reading recently that a lot of medical records are quite unstructured. So a lot of them are just images, for example. So maybe this technology would be a good application where it's a whole lot of unstructured files and X-ray photos, what have you.
A lot of people want to talk to you about that same problem.